Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee night and day.
Preparation for meditation. Now let's inhale, tense, and vibrate our bodies. Throw the breath out. And again, tense and vibrate. Throw the breath out. And one last time. Now let's offer the love of the heart awakened through chanting up to the point between the eyebrows, calling to God there. Reveal thyself, reveal thyself. And feel His loving response ever growing in our hearts. We meditate for about 10 minutes. Shanti, shanti. Now a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda, entitled, Make Me See that I am but an actor in thy cosmic motion picture. Beholding the ever-changing sound and motion pictures of life, I am aware that this turbulent dancing show is only a vast illusion. The tragedies, comedies, and paradoxes of life, the dreams of birth and death, the changing scenes and places that surge round us, all these are nothing but movies, designed to engage us in the cosmic illusion. O divine operator, with thy cosmic vibratory light, thou dost show us ever new thrills, a motion picture true to all our five senses, keeping us amused and entertained through sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. O magic operator, thy true seeming spectacle beams daily onto the screens of our consciousness. I take it as thy grace that I have been chosen to play both tragic and comic parts in thy drama. I am happy to have acted all those parts, both of sorrow and of joy. Still, Father, give me now and then a few days of rest from my task. Let me retire to my closet of introspection, stand before my own thought audiences, and behold with laughing heart all the tragedies and comedies I have enacted. Teach me to look upon all that happens in my life with a pleased, interested attitude, that at the end of each episode, no matter how sad or difficult, I may exclaim, ah, that was a good show, full of thrills, suspense, and excitement. I'm happy to have seen it, and I have learned much from it for my own benefit. And from the Essence of Self-Realization by Paramahansa Yogananda, drawn from the chapter, The Law of Life. A congregation member of one of the Self-Realization Fellowship churches came to Paramahansa Yogananda, troubled by doubt. Master, she said, some people claim that with so much suffering in the world, it is wrong for anyone to be happy. Doesn't personal enjoyment imply a lack of compassion for the suffering of others? Jesus, she added, is often depicted as a man of sorrows. I've never heard him described as a man of joy. Paramahansa Yogananda replied, the Jesus I know is bliss-filled, not sorrowful. He grieves for the sorrows of mankind, yes, but his grief doesn't make him grief-stricken. Were he actually to embrace others' sorrows, what would he have to give them, except an increase of their misery? God's bliss makes those who have it compassionate for the millions who have missed the point of their existence. But compassion only adds to their inner bliss. It doesn't diminish it. For bliss is the cure all men are seeking, whether consciously or unconsciously. It is not a side issue unrelated to suffering. The more blissful one feels within, the more he longs to share his bliss with all. Divine joy comes with self-expansion. Suffering, on the other hand, is the fruit of selfishness, of contracted ego. Joy awakens compassion in the heart. It makes one long to infuse divine bliss into those who are weeping in sorrow. Many years ago, I don't remember when, but it might have been around the time when we had the fire in 1976 at Ananda. we had a particular portion of the property that were devoted to these old trailers where numbers of people lived in. And so my dream was that there was this fire, and that all of a sudden I thought, oh my gosh, Swami's up there in the trailer park in his trailer, and I've got to go and alert him. And so I raced to the trailer with the flames that were there coming closer and closer. And I knocked on his door vigorously, and he opened it up, and what was my surprise and amazement when he was just in his bathrobe and slippers, and he had this blissful look in his face. And I was all excited, and I said, Swami, there's a fire, and please let me take you to a place of safety. And so he said, fine. And so I reached out my arms, and I took him again into my arms, and began as quickly as I could to get to a place where we would all be safe. Within moments, all of a sudden, and again, the flames were high and trees were burning, there was a snow. And this snowfall fell very, very heavily. And all of a sudden, the fire was out. And I thought to myself, who is helping who? And it was obvious that it was a miracle. And I'll never forget that dream, because in a way, from the very beginning of Ananda to Swami's passing, again and again, what did he do for all of us, as he continues to do in his blissful, omnipresent state, because his master said he'd be liberated in this lifetime, and so he has now embraced his reward. He has come to save us. He's come to inspire us and to encourage us. And so on his birthday is actually in a few days, it's a joy during, again, this auspicious time. We just were celebrating last month his Mahasamadhi. During this powerful time, then it's a very good thing to be meditating on and appreciating all that he did for us. Because when he started at Ananda in 1967 was when he got the first land seclusion retreat. He was hoping that this would be a place for his own seclusion. Because when he left Self-Realization Fellowship in 1962, very, very abruptly, and it was very, very painful for him, all he could think of was that he then perhaps could spend the rest of his life in seclusion. And he was quite amazed when he got a message through a disciple from Ananda Ma, the great saint that he met and spent some time with in the early 60s, late 50s and early 60s, the blissful saint Ananda Ma that we read about in the autobiography of a yogi. When she had heard that he had been ousted from SRF, she said in this message that was given to him, take this as the Guru's grace. And he said, that was one thing that I could not accept. It was too painful, because his whole life was serving his Guru in that organization, and he couldn't possibly imagine what the next chapter of his life would be without his Guru vibes, without being in that blissful vibration and so forth of the ashram. And yet, bit by bit, he was able, through, again, many different instances and miracles, to found Ananda. And in the beginning, he thought it was just for his own seclusion, but as it turned out, he was always someone who wanted God, but at the same time, he wanted to share these blessings with all. It was an interesting episode that he had years ago when he first started playing songs. And he got a guitar, a very good one, a Martin guitar from his brother. And so he began playing songs. And he was in Yosemite at one point, and there on a bridge were a couple of fellows, and they began talking. And so they said, after talking to him for a while, you sing, great, can you sing us a song? So he sang Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, one of the old spirituals. And they enjoyed it. And they actually said, well, will you come to a party we're having and sing some more? And he did. Wasn't exactly what he was used to, but very graciously he came. And then he thought, I need to come up with some other songs, and he did. And as it worked out, hundreds of songs he composed. But in the beginning, it was these beautiful folk songs that carried a very lovely, often lively vibration, but very, very deep. And so at one point he was recording these in San Francisco. And one of the songs, again, was joyful and so forth. And the fellow that was recording, the engineer, after the recording was over, he said, you know something, these songs just aren't real. Life is not like that. It's filled with pain and suffering. And Swami said, it's because I have suffered that I can write these songs of joy. Now, I don't know if this fellow was inspired by this comment. I hope so. But that was a very, very telling comment, because the flip side of pain is joy, and pain is the prod that continues to move us forward. In this wonderful reading that we read just this morning from Whispers, that there was Master saying, thank you for giving me the opportunity to play the tragic and the cosmic parts. And you think, oh my gosh, what level of consciousness would one have to have in order to embrace equally these two opposite states? But it was Master's consciousness, and it was his way, and it was his teachings. If I am healthy, that's all right, he said at one point. If I am unhealthy, that's all right. If I have money, that's all right. If I don't have money, that's all right. Whatever you want to do through this body is all right by me. Because in the state that he achieved, as he said, he killed Yogananda many, many, many years ago. No one dwells in this temple now, he said, but God. He was now unaffected by the dream. And that's what Swami brought to us. Toward the end of his life, he got readings from the book of Brigu. And he was told that in these readings that he would be living into his 90s. And Swami was in his mid-80s at that point. He said, I hope not. But he was smiling, and it was very, very sweet, because he knew that time was running out. And indeed, it wasn't long before he left this world. And yes, there's no question that as the time was nearing for his departure, it's been 7 years now that he left, that he would be missing us all. But because he had achieved such a high state, and he had secured his liberation, as Master said, then yes, on a human level, he'd be missing us. But on a divine level, he would become us. And that he has as the case of all the great saints. Their blissful omnipresence, that is their state. And that's why they yearn, give to us what they have. And so with Swami, over the years, we found again and again that though he had tremendous trials, it wasn't just the time that he was thrown out of Self-Realization Fellowship in 1962 and wanted to die. Then after he had worked so hard in San Francisco, earning the money to build the community, then I was there at that time. It was 1970, I'll never forget. May, that the temple burned down. And there were about 4 or 5 of us there with Swami. And he was in a state of shock, as we all were. How could this be? After working so hard and having so many challenges, the temple would burn down. And then the now famous story where he went to the common dome, he said he was feeling numb, as I feel any of us would feel after such tremendous effort and then this incredible test. And as he was not wanting to feel numbness, who would want that, he began to pray, talk to Divine Mother, and say, I've done all of this for you. I didn't do any of it for me. And so you've taken the temple. If you want, take the dining room too and the rest of the buildings, if that's what you want to do. And then he felt this bliss that just overwhelmed him. He was intoxicated then with this bliss. And so, a wonderful story from the tragedy, the seeming tragedy of this temple burning down, and then the joy that came. Because as he said, especially in his later life, when he would recount the various things that he had done, building community, so many lectures and books and songs that he had written, he said, they don't mean anything to me. All that I've done for God. God has used me as his instrument. All that matters is to love God. And so it's fascinating to be doing what we can, all of us, in our own way, in praying for others and sending light into this needy world and all of the various duties that we have, to know that in themselves they don't mean anything. All that God and the great ones will say, St. Peter, when he checks us in at the gate of heaven, he will say, as we've been told, how much have you loved? The accomplishments and all of that, that's wonderful. And it's important because people do need tangible things to see. It's not always easy to help people unless perhaps they can come to a temple, as of course is the great blessing here in India with so many temples with high vibrations. To come into a temple, feel the vibrations, to go to places like Ananda village and feel the power of these various sanctuaries and the beauty of nature to add to that. And people can really almost touch, they can touch the land and feel these blessings and see the beauty. And this combination can be absolutely overwhelming. I remember a time during a period where we were having a lawsuit that lasted over a decade, and it was an enormous trial. And so I was so amazed that in between of these very vigorous court cases, that Swami decided to have up at Ananda village, at the Crystal Hermitage where he lived, to have 2 weekend concerts. The week in between was filled with these horrendous court cases. But in between the 2 weekends, back to back, sandwiching this 5-day experience of being in court, were these wonderful concerts. And I remember my father, a very spiritual man, my mother and father came to Ananda Village very often. And so they attended this concert. And it was a beautiful evening, and with a beautiful sunset, and the music was astral. And there was Swami singing and performing along with the choir and the orchestra. And at the end, I saw my father's face, and he was just beaming. He was just aglow, as really all of us were, with the beauty of this music. As Swami would say, if you want to get to know me, then get to know my music. Play my music, sing the music, better still. And so it is to this day that so many people are drawn by this beautiful music that he was able to compose. He had a great sense of humor, of course. And so from time to time, he would lecture, of course, out in the public. And so one particular time, someone came up to him, and the choir always accompanied these lectures. And the fellow said, oh, the music was so beautiful and so on. It didn't say anything about his inspired lecture. So Swami was teasing afterwards that, what is this? You know, the choir comes up, and it wasn't the first time when people would comment how beautiful was the choir and remain silent when it came to his beautiful lecture. And for him, he understood perfectly, as music is the universal language. And when Roma and many others went to Europe with Swami to sing the songs of the oratorio, the beautiful songs that he composed after he spent time in Jerusalem, the Holy Land, drinking and drinking of the presence of Christ. And people came up to him, and in one particular instance, a man came up and he said, you know, I'm from France. And he spoke to Swami in French, and Swami, being adept in many languages, knew French as well. And he said, you know, I don't know the English and the oratorio songs, but I was absolutely moved to tears by this performance. And that wasn't the only time that people commented during that fabulous series, where people were moved to the depths of their soul by his music. And so Swami came in with a special mission, as Master said. I have a great work for you to do, Master. Swami, Master said. And I will give you the strength to do it. And as he said, we are that strength. And we are. And we're able to grow by serving in our own way. And everyone is unique in the way that they offer their service. And it's so inspiring to hear from all of you as we're talking over the phone. And everyone's spirits are wonderful, and it's not always easy, but for any of us, even some of us that have been on the path for a while, to be in quote-unquote lockdown. I was teasing someone calling this experience house arrest, but really in a deeper sense, it is a seclusion. And incidentally, Roma is in seclusion. And you think, well, we're in seclusion, why do we need another seclusion? But there's nothing like formal seclusion, where here she is in silence for a week. And it's very important to take seclusion. As Swami would say again and again, take seclusion for a week. Each year, take a seclusion for a couple of weeks. And if that is difficult because of duties we have at home or at work, whatever it might be, then take a little bit of time, whatever amount of time we can, even a half a day, and go deep in order to resurrect our drive, our yearning for God, our deep, deep, deep yearning that we have to meditate with the Guru, to serve as his instrument. All these things are so very, very important. So on Swami's birthday, then let us appreciate that this was an amazing blessing for all of us, whether we're able to see him in the body or to listen now to his lectures and hear his songs and stories and so forth. Because of course, all of these great ones, they're very, very much here. Why is the presence of Christ so strong? To this day, why is the presence of Krishna, Buddha, so strong to this day? Because what's happening here is only a dream. There is no time, there is no space, it's an illusion. And so the vibration of these great ones permeate this earth. And thank God for that. Because they're the ones that are in charge. Babaji with us here in India, alive to this day. He's the one who's in charge. These are the ones that are truly directing the destiny of all mankind with their bliss and with their love. And yes, there are those times of trial, and they're needed for purification. We all know that in our own way. But what will come of it will be the opening of our hearts and more clarity in our minds, more expansion of our spirit, in order that we can be better instruments for Divine Mother. And so, again, happy Swami's birthday to everyone, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you continue, as we're all doing to the best of our ability, to be an instrument for these great ones that come to this earth only to help inspire, to help to awaken us to the experience that they are having at this present moment. So we're now going to have a beautiful song of Swami's Krishna's flute. So again, let's sit up straight and drink in this inspired vibration.
I've heard your flute high on a cloud, your call I can't resist. Oh, let me come and play with you. We'll scatter music with the dew and sound the morning mist. I've heard you piping on a hill, all else I've set aside. Oh, let us dance the mountain peaks. We'll skip with breezes on the creeks and soar the valleys wide. Your flute has called me to the fields. Now I've no place to live. Don't send me back rejected friend. Whatever I call mine must end. All that I am I give. I hear your flute in every tree, in every flower and stream, and sweetest melody of all, a song that heaven's joy recalls. Here in my heart you sing.
And now let's affirm, God's light is within me and around me. With the sword of faith in my hand, with love of God in my heart, I am a warrior of light. I join my brothers and sisters everywhere to overcome fear with faith, hatred with love, and disease with health. Let us fill the world with God's light. God's light is within me and around me. With the sword of faith in my hand, with love of God in my heart, I am a warrior of light. I join my brothers and sisters everywhere to overcome fear with faith, hatred with love, and disease with health. Let us fill the world with God's light. A little quieter. God's light is within me and around me. With the sword of faith in my hand, with love of God in my heart, I'm a warrior of light. I join my brothers and sisters everywhere to overcome fear with faith, hatred with love, and disease with health. Let us fill the world with God's light. And now whispering, God's light is within me and around me. With the sword of faith in my hand, with love of God in my heart, I'm a warrior of light. I join my brothers and sisters everywhere to overcome fear with faith, hatred with love, and disease with health. Let us fill the world with God's light. And now silently, God's light is within me and around me. With the sword of faith in my hand, with love of God in my heart, I am a warrior of light. I join my brothers and sisters everywhere to overcome fear with faith, hatred with love, and disease with health. Let us fill the world with God's light. And now let's close with healing prayers, drawing to mind those we'd like to pray for, our loved ones, friends, colleagues. See them bathed in light. See the Master surrounding them, sending them waves of healing power. Send light to all those on our healing prayer lists, especially to those that are suffering from this tremendous test worldwide. Send light to those that have passed on, to those that are grieving for their loved ones that have departed, for all those that are ill, the health workers, those serving in many capacities. Send wave after wave of light and healing to these souls and to all souls in special need. Let's pray, Divine Mother, Thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in their bodies, minds, and souls. Rubbing our hands together now, let's send out a wave of light as we chant Om. Let's pray, Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Keshwarji, beloved Guru, Ramahans Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow to you all. Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever upon the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om.